So,
Need to plug in.
hello.
Hi, good morning, live. It's very early in the morning.
It's not very early.
No, it is.
8:11
For a person
a.m.
that basically sleeps almost
Oops.
every day to about 3 p.m., it is very early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hi.
my daughter has decided that sleeping is a really fantastic
Thing to do in quarantine.
during quarantine.
Yes,
So
it's my new hobby.
Yesterday we had the first sort of full-on.
Is anyone even watching?
Yeah, I've already got 2 viewers.
Seriously?
Yes.
I just said that in front of 2 viewers? Oh my god.
And it's gonna get recorded and everything.
Okay,
Give 4 viewers. Give us a thumbs up. Some type of a comment so that we know that things work. Jag ljusar ett latvisk, vi kanske rakstid en kommentar latvisk valda, som ist Paris im latvisk valda. Also und wenn du mal ein bisschen Deutsch hören möchtest, dann schreibe einfach einen Kommentar auf Deutsch und dann werde ich auf Deutsch beantworten. I'm totally
All the Indian people don't understand anything. Is like, what?
Yeah. Well, a lot of Indians speak. A lot of Indians speak
We have one
English.
right
A lot of Indians speak English.
Mm.
Okay. So I was actually going to maybe comb or brush my hair before coming online live. But welcome to all my viewers. I have been looking for the evidence for social distancing during the type of global pandemic that we're experiencing. And I read the first paragraph, and actually yesterday I perused the whole thing. It's super short. It's like 9 pages. How many pages is it? 9. It is 9 pages.
Yes.
And I mean,
is it even on? No.
I'm sorry, everybody, but so
hi.
We're gonna read this, and we're gonna read this together. And thanks for the thumbs up. Ask any questions that you want. Jag skriver till Latvisch och das vienkārši pasakiet, wenn du Deutsch hören magst, einfach schreib mal was auf Deutsch. A rapid summary of current knowledge. Kamal, Carl, and Jeffrey. Now, I don't know if they're...
Martani, Carl Hanian, and Jeffrey K. Aronson.
I'm going to deactivate read out loud. I wanted it to read it to me. I don't know if these people are educated because they're not using their titles, but okay. And in another part of it, Kamal, I guess, apparently has an email address. So that I think is valuable because I'm probably going to get in touch with Kamal. On behalf of the Oxford COVID-19 Evidence Service Team. Okay, has there ever been an evidence service team before? And what have the evidence service teams been? Center for Evidence-Based Medicine. Okay, I'm coming at this skeptically, everybody. Okay, I couldn't sleep because of this. This is really, really weak. I mean, like, if this were a play in football and you're the offense, you just got tackled. This is, you just got sacked, actually. This is, all right, let's keep reading this. It's an evidence service team. Okay, has there ever been an evidence service team before? If so, when did those start? Center for Evidence-Based Medicine and Nuffield Department of Primary Care Health Sciences, University of Oxford. We have a contact point. This was issued on the 19th of March, 4 days ago. So maybe there have been people like me that have been asking for, what science substantiates this inverted or upside down or inside out or whatever you want to call it method of quarantine, where instead of quarantining the ailing and the sick, ailing subset of our population, we're quarantining the asymptomatic and healthy. When has that ever been done in the past? Okay, my daughter is guessing. I don't know. Maybe she's going on the... She's saying never. Now she's guessing from the background, and she might not be wrong, but I've been trying to find evidence of that type of quarantine. And I can't find any evidence of that type of quarantine. So let's read this verdict and tell me that this doesn't unsettle you, okay? And again, if you're, we have an audience, so it's definitely interact with us. Like comment, ask, and comment in the language that you want to hear. Okay, listen to this. First of all, it's called a verdict. Now, the last time I checked, and I guess Emmy's gonna sew.
Yeah, but it's gonna take a while to
But
find the
look how
design.
beautiful the material is.
It's neon.
It's neon green and it's super stretchy, and it's really quite nice.
Oh, right, I have to do it.
Okay, I didn't know evidence service teams provide verdicts. I mean, does science work with verdicts? I'm not really sure about that vocabulary. Listen to this. Although limited, the best available evidence appears to support social distancing measures as a means of reducing transmission and delaying spread. That very sentence says that the evidence is limited, although we have limited evidence. They're saying the best available evidence appears to support social distancing measures as a means of reducing transmission and delaying spread. There are two hedges. One hedge is although that they have limited evidence. And then they're saying that the limited evidence that's available appears to support the social distancing methods.
Appears.
We have two hedges. Now, staggered and cumulative implementation of these interventions may prove most effective. The whole world has shut down based on, although we have limited evidence, that evidence appears to support that shutting down, that restricting the interaction among the asymptomatic and healthy. I can't find precedent for it. If there's been precedent for it, please share where. There's like Gunner, Pennsylvania or something. There's a place that I think it was during the Spanish flu epidemic, so we're talking about 100 years ago, and they quarantined their town. You could not go in or out from the town. Now, I think that there was a zone. There have been these types of zones. These types of quarantine, I think, actually means 40. But you spend 4 days, 40 days, 10 days, 20 days, whatever you spend, and then you go into the place where the people are acting normally, where they're interacting normally, where schools are happening, where commerce is happening normally. Quarantining is a way to quarantine. I mean, it's a place, actually. It's also a noun. What is quarantine? When you go into quarantine, you're saying, I'm sick and contagious, so I'm going into quarantine. How is it possible that this has been inverted? The timing and duration of such measures appear to be critical. Okay, great. So what? Not only the timing and duration, they appear to be critical. Background. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the UK government has now moved from its contain phase to a delay phase. Interesting that this evidence service, the evidence service team, looks to be recommending what the rest of the world is doing. Background. Okay, we did that. Social distancing measures are being mandated, including self-isolation for anyone with specific symptoms. More social distancing measures are likely to be introduced, including self-isolation of the over 70s and higher risk groups, irrespective of symptoms, and possibly for several months to reduce their risk of virus exposure. Oh my goodness, who's responsible for that? That means that if you're over 70 or in a higher risk group and you think you might pass away, that somehow all of a sudden you're not supposed to be with your children, grandchildren, friends, and family. This is horrible. Okay, what's number 2? Let's take a look. remember, allow. Okay, well, I don't know why. It's not letting me view the document. It opened it up here, did it? I cannot view or change the references of this document. Okay, so the first actual reference won't open. And now let's go down to number 2 in the footnotes and see what they're talking about.
I'm gonna sew now.
What it's gonna go, and I'm gonna just talk more loudly.
I have no idea.
Scottish.
Scotch.
Baker's Peace, baby.
Okay.
We're gonna do an audio test here.
1 second. Gotta turn it on.
Just give me a sample sound.
Wait.
Because it's not that loud.
Yes, it is.
Vet du vad taka estetiska ja tieskameras I alpoil. Anyway, this is a science team. And sure, I'm going to assume that I'm just going to lean into the microphone. I'm going to assume that you can hear me while my daughter's sewing.
Hi.
So a science team is referencing BBC News. They're referencing journalism. We're an evidence team. We're gonna our second reference. They're talking about has now moved from its contained to delay phase. Who moved it? I'm gonna say the UK government has moved. Government has moved. I guess it's a collective decision. That's number 1. So it's just going to be a report about a decision having been made. The Department of Healthcare, so the decision was made, right? Announces moving out of containment phase into delay. The second one is just they're referencing journalism. My daughter messed up. She's sewing.
Yeah. I'm just gonna.
Okay, social distancing measures are being mandated. Let's just reference the news. The strategy has not had universal support, really. Last week, in an open letter to the government, 501 UK-based academic signatories and 40 distinguished international signatories wrote that we consider the social distancing measures taken as of today as insufficient. And we believe that additional and more restrictive measures should be taken immediately as it is already happening in other countries around the world. 541 people signed on that. Now, I'm going to think that of those 541 academic and distinguished signatories, that somebody listening can get me in touch with a few of them to ask who is the originator of this inverted form of of quarantine that we're now calling social distancing. When have we quarantined the healthy and not the ailing? Aren't the healthy supposed to be helping the sick and ailing? We've never responded as a species to any kind of threat like this. Next is self-isolation of over 70s and higher risk groups. Are you kidding me? People are supposed to die alone, cold and afraid and isolated? Are you kidding me? That's inhuman. That's horrible. How are these 541 people thinking that this is somehow reasonable? Low-risk groups like currently with COVID-19, the youth and adults are here to help the ailing and elderly. Who are these 541 people, and who made up this inverted or inside out quarantine? Okay.
Inverted and inside out means the same thing.
Okay, those other countries include in three. Okay, so I might be able to get in touch with these scientists that are saying this. Gosh, some scientists say UK virus strategy risks lives. Well, again, they're referencing journalism. That for an evidence team, I mean, I'm already like, why are you presenting such an unbelievably weakly? If I don't like the idea that it's called a verdict, right? I would think that it would be called a postulate or a conclusion or a recommendation, but they're calling it a verdict, okay? And the verdict is complete. Okay, and the verdict is unbelievably weakly worded. Weakly worded. Oh my gosh, I couldn't sleep.
Same.
I could not sleep. I read that verdict and then I skimmed the rest of this and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This cannot be the extent of the science that we're basing our global behavior on.
Bless you.
That's never shut in.
I don't care.
I just really need a drink of water.
Okay. Yes.
Man, that's a lot of load.
Yeah. I don't drink any other water.
Tano tasting mom sirari burbulianes. Those countries.
No water around the computer. Thank you.
Okay. Those countries include Italy, Spain, France, and Germany, where far wider restrictions are being implemented, including closure of schools and public spaces such as cafes, restaurants, cinemas, and most shops, and in some cases restrictions on when people can leave their homes. Kabuties sada kabutsitor.
Yep, exactly.
I'm gonna sit somewhere else.
But it's not gonna help anyway because.
Yeah, ne būs skaidrs. Okay. Es sēdēšu šeit. Okay. Okay, so other countries have done wider restrictions, and we have limited evidence that appears to support that these social distancing measures are a means of reducing transmission and delaying spread. Other countries have done more, as is evidenced by, don't tell me it's more journalism, and the evidence is BBC News. We've got the Department of Health, BBC. All right. You know, I mean, we're already sort of analyzing the. I mean, is this fake? Is this the real evidence service? Maybe this is fake. The Center for Evidence-Based Medicine develops, promotes, and disseminates better evidence for healthcare. I feel like the day before yesterday, I fell asleep and I woke up and, I mean, this is like really, really low level of, I mean, promotes and disseminates better evidence for healthcare? Could that possibly be their tagline? it is uncertain whether these measures are sufficient or too limited, as there's currently little evidence on how to manage COVID-19. Really? We have therefore assessed evidence from other scenarios, such as influenza pandemics, to inform potential social distancing strategies. Well, are they assuming the clothes there? Is that a foregone conclusion? Is that already a logical fallacy? Because to inform potential social distancing strategies. What about social closeness? I tried to find some evidence that would support the social distancing of measures where you quarantine the asymptomatic and the healthy, and I found that scientific verification that hugging each other boosts immunity and reduces the severity and transmission and frequency of upper respiratory tract infections. Wow. Okay. So there's also social closeness. It just seems like when I've seen the models, it's like here's how here's negative 100 and here's positive 100, right? And now all of a sudden people can only be toxic from negative 100 to less toxic to negative 50 to less toxic to 0. And we like eliminated the entire top part of people being healthy, helpful, and good for and to each other. So from 0 to 100 has been wiped out, and there's just 0, which is maybe some type of non-transmission, and then there's just negative. So we can only be toxic to each other, and being an asymptomatic carrier can somehow now become illegal, even though you don't know who infected you and whether the thing that's infecting you is a biological warfare weapon. And so there may actually literally be armies that there may be like a general that infected you. But if you don't know that you're infected, you can be arrested on the street and captured and put in jail for 6 years. And how is that jail any safer than you being at home to humanity or to your immediate society? It's not like, what are they going to, I mean, apparently, yeah, whatever, you're going to filter the air as if the jail were a quarantine. We have to build quarantine jails now? With this or it just doesn't really matter because we're just gonna, the actual science and the actual truth of the matter just doesn't matter at all. Why do I care? Is asking my daughter. I care.
Yeah, we're gonna die all anyway.
Well, maybe.
At least some action.
At least some action? This isn't the kind of action I want to be experiencing.
Yeah, we're all gonna die anyway.
We're all gonna die anyway is your justification for me not investigating this?
No, I'm not saying that. Like, you can investigate all you want if that's interesting for you.
It is.
Nobody should freaking care. Because, okay, great, we're quarantined. You can sleep longer. Yes, it's boring, but it's probably gonna end one day. You can't do this forever.
She's just saying, I don't know if you could hear it, but she said that you can't do the quarantine forever. I'm quite concerned. I'm quite concerned that the quarantine measures would be extended. And I'm also quite concerned that almost all of the governments, it's almost like this lock. It's like this being in it's almost like everybody's in the same army or something. It's really weird. It's really weird that only the UK is doing something slightly different from the rest of the world, and now like more and more states in the United States are going on quote unquote lockdown. Europe is on quote unquote lockdown.
What if they're all just demons?
What if they're all just demons? Who?
Governments and stuff.
Governments and stuff.
What if they're all just demons and we're just humans?
They're all just demons and we're just humans. I don't know. That's a theory.
What if I'm an undercover vampire? Who knows?
Okay, matey.
Who
Who knows?
It would be cool if I would be an undercover vampire. Vampires are cool.
Okay, maybe. So, current evidence. We're going to get a list of evidence. We found 2 notable systemic reviews. Okay, 2. In preparation for World Health Organization guidance, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia, CDC, posted May 2020. It is March 2020. Look at that. It's March 23rd, 2020. We
Yes, it's the date of today.
January, February, March, April, May. So apparently 2 months from now, the CDC posted a policy review. I'm finding the policy review for 2 months from now. Something's really sketchy, everybody.
What? So they are demons.
I don't know. Making this is the 5th.
Is their future telling that's weird?
This is the 5th of May, 2020.
What? What is what?
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just save this. Read it later. Early release.
If it's early release from 2018, that's weird.
See, now they're saying influenza virus infections are believed to spread mostly by close contact in the community. Social distancing measures are essential. Social distancing measures are essential components of the public health response to influenza pandemics.
What?
So now, in May, there's going to be another lockdown. Is that the idea? Because that's one of the main.
We're sleeping.
Okay, so they posted
Why are you
an
rushing?
early release. It's 2 months from now. Policy review of social distancing measures for pandemic influenza in non-healthcare settings. FONG 2020 review. The FONG review conducted separate systemic reviews to gather available evidence on the effectiveness of 6 measures to reduce community influenza transmission as follows. Isolating ill people. Yeah, we've done that before. And self-isolation. That means staying home when you don't feel well. Tracing contacts. Hey, leave me alone. We shouldn't be needing to tell anybody about our contacts. Quarantine of exposed people. Asymptomatic people have the right to go wherever they want to go. We don't know if we're being attacked. What if somebody got, sprayed
What
or...
if somebody's a demon?
Okay, my daughter's asking, what if somebody's a demon?
Demons are actually kind of cool. They're probably pretty evil, but nah. Maybe they're chill demons, but just really evil.
Maybe they're chill demons. Okay,
But just
so
really evil.
my daughter's on the demon idea right now.
I have no idea. We watched Good Place too long.
Yes, we watched a lot of Good Place. And it just keeps going. We
The
watched
Good Place. How many episodes are there? We're over 30. What? How?
It
What?
was so
Why?
great to see Ted Danson though. And then he was a bartender for a bit. It reminded me of Cheers. And I like
Have
actually.
you watched The Good Place?
Okay.
The Netflix series. I don't know who you are, but have you watched it? If yes, probably yes. We don't know how many episodes that is. I'm gonna check that. No,
Okay, just as sort of a forewarning for other countries and people that might get like completely locked down. We're only on Monday through we're on day 7 of quarantine, and Sunday was the only day. Church was called off, right? So actually, my eyes are dry from being inside so much. I guess
Really? I'm fine.
I'm gonna go out now. But on Sundays, nothing's open in Austria. So there's you couldn't even figure out a reason to go to the grocery store. Now I need to be prepared to explain to police officers that I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to the grocery store. Okay. School dismissals or closures. So they're gonna gather evidence on the effectiveness. Okay, good. Changes in the workplace, avoiding crowds and restricting movement. All right. We also identified the review by Rashid and colleagues who 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 conducted a systemized review on social distancing and other related measures for response on influenza pandemic. Rashid 2015 review. This is written like, hey, my buddy Rashid, and look what I saw on the BBC. I'm sorry, this is horrible. The level of inquiry and scientific curiosity is so low. This is really disturbing. My buddy Rashid, hey, 2015, okay. It just, I mean, shouldn't it be like, we also identified the review by Rashid, by, Dr. Rashid something something from such and such university, investigated by these three teams, this university, that university, this university, tested on, I eat vegan, but, if you're going to be doing something like this, tested on rats, horses, and, I don't know, orangutans. I mean, are you serious? My buddy Rashid, okay, number 6. I can't view the document. This is incredible. I hope this is a joke. Oxford COVID-19 Evidence Service, I hope this is some kind of fake joke. My buddy Rashid. Okay, Rashid, who are you? Min W. Fong. Why doesn't everybody, they're not using their titles? Because it would make me feel more comfortable if these references if the people had titles. Non-pharmaceutical measures for pandemic influenza in non-healthcare settings, social distancing measures. Okay. So one, is it? Okay, I can't get to the papers. Well, there's something I can read. There's something I can read at least. That's at least there's something I can read. Buddy Rashid. We use these reviews as our primary sources of descriptive data. One review. However, we supplemented the published review findings by conducting a rapid restricted search of PubMed to identify any other relevant information since the above reviews were published. 2015. See the search strategy at the end of the article. Something from between 2015 and 2020. Hey, do I have an audience here? Is anybody unsettled by, I have 5 viewers. Write me something, because this is messing with me, everybody. I'll put the link to this, but this isn't even Science 101. This is like before the scientific method. This is like, hey, my buddy Rashid, and then we searched on PubMed to see if there was anything that substantiates what the entire world is doing and locking down the asymptomatic and the healthy, destroying businesses. I've already had news come across my news feed about a single mom somewhere who told a network of friends that she was going to kill herself and her child because she's freaking out because she can't provide for herself. She works in probably some kind of service industry thing. She's not making any money, doesn't know how she's going to survive. So the thing that all the governments are doing, and I'm actually going to talk to the police officers. I love you. I have had great relationships with EMTs, police officers, and soldiers, to be honest with you. But really, I mean, maybe I just haven't met any dirty cops, but I like cops. You guys are you are good people. If you're getting orders to do something that goes against your conscience, don't do it. Don't do it. I saw the thing in Hawaii. There's this, activist journalist person videoing the people. They were saying that there were so many lines for everybody wanting to get the COVID-19 test, and there weren't any lines. This guy's sitting in his car videoing. He starts getting really frustrated because in the media they're saying there's overwhelmed by lines. There weren't any lines. Several hours went by, nobody went in and out. And then the lady who was running the clinic assaulted the guy with the camera. And then the police were there, and instead of the police being like, "Yeah, we're gonna serve the authoritarians that are giving this, that are lying to the public in the media," somebody mentioned me. Anyway, I'm live right now. Put it in the comments and keep giving me feedback and stuff because the software might have a little bit of delay. But the cop served and protected the citizen. So this is a very important message because the police, you guys, you're the tool. Your decisions are pretty much, you're the I would say arbiters of the use. You're the deadly force. You may be commanded to do things that, if this goes on, you might be commanded to isolate people in their homes because they're suspected as having had contact with somebody who's infected. Now, what's interesting is that there's another way of looking at germ theory. One of the other ways of looking at germ theory is that viruses are actually a response to being poisoned. So another way of looking at it is that we're all fish in the ocean, and somebody poisoned the ocean. Okay, we're children. We're curious. Maybe we infect each other. Maybe we have a level of toxicity, and viruses sort of emanate from our bodies when we're poisoned. So there are multiple ways of looking at how infection actually works, and so basically I'm going to talk to this is just me talking to the police of the world. You're going to follow your command, you're going to follow authority, you're going to follow your heart and your mind. I'm going to urge you to disobey destructive commands. I really mean it. If humanity can trust the police, then we're going to be okay. Emmy vai tudo bem, Alex? Emmy? Just a second. Oh. My daughter's on her phone, so kind of got really quiet back there. So they searched around on PubMed. Hey! Isolating ill people, number one. The following 2020 reviewers found 15 studies about isolating ill people. Got to be more than 15 studies, everybody. There's there are medical anthropologists that have studied stuff like the plague and the Spanish flu, and all kinds of stuff. One study broadly in outbreaks. One study broadly defined case isolation as separation or restriction of movement of ill persons with an infectious disease at home or in a healthcare facility to prevent transmission to others. Right. The reviewers found 8 studies that reported a reduced quote-unquote attack rate through case isolation measures. So case isolation is now what they're calling what quarantining has been. Case isolation may also delay the peak of the epidemic. For example, the reviewers found one study that reported that case isolation of 40% of cases could delay the epidemic by 83 days compared with no intervention. Other studies indicate possible benefits, although the scale of the delay varied. They also found, wouldn't you think you'd need the population and the number of square miles or kilometers and the number of cases? 83 days! They also found uncertainty about the duration of self-isolation. Some authors recommended isolation until the fever had abated, while others advised waiting 5 to 7 days after the onset of the illness. Tracing contacts. The Fong reviewers identified 4 simulation studies of contact tracing. Contact tracing showed some benefit, particularly when combined with other social distancing measures. However, there was variability in the size of the potential benefit. In one study, contact tracing in combination with other measures could reportedly delay the peak of a pandemic by about 6 weeks. Forget, population, health, diet, travel. However, considerable resources are needed for contact tracing. Really? Like in normal interaction, someone's on a plane, there are 200 people in the plane, then somebody's in the airport, there are 80,000 people in the airport. Someone gets on, public transportation, there are 1,000 people in public transportation. Someone gets into the public transportation. Yeah, right. Okay, go for that. Go for contact tracing, everybody. That's a good idea. Oh, but it only goes from the spit. Okay. So then you only have to trace the people that there's been intimate contact with. Yeah. However, considerable resources are needed for contact tracing. Really? I mean, depending on what kind of contact tracing, are you talking about having shared some air with limited evidence of cost effectiveness? Really? That's surprising. The sustainability of contact tracing may become a problem, and the intervention may need to be limited to individuals at higher risk, right? Because or in small communities at risk to others. So we're going to do contact tracing, but we might have to limit it to individuals at higher risk because we're just going to do it. Because it showed some benefit, particularly combined. We're not going to actually define the benefit. Apparently the benefit, isolating, what's the benefit? Current evidence, background, verdict. I mean, if you're going to put the conclusion first, you may as well tell us what benefits you're going for, right? You're trying to delay a pandemic. You're not even looking at a geographic region, interaction, flights in and out. You could look at gross national product, maybe. You could look at age dispersion. You could look at all kinds of really, cool stuff. But apparently, you're just saying, weeks. 3, this, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of having a boss that's really dumb, and they're like, you have to put everything. I mean, it's funny because I was watching this program called, what was it called? The Good Place, and it was like, give me everything on one page with pictures. This is what this reminds me of. Number 3, quarantine of exposed persons. Exposed. How do you assess exposed? By tracing contacts. That doesn't sound, Orwellian. The Fong reviewers identified data from 16 studies. Footnote. Footnote, everybody. Is there a footnote? Number 3 doesn't have a footnote. Key messages. Korea. Public Health England. Okay, the following reviewers identified data from 16 studies. Which 16 studies? We don't know. We just know there are 16 studies. What is this? I mean, I feel like I'm in high school and I'm the high school science teacher. I'm like, okay, if you identify data from 16 studies, you need to show your references. Although the evidence for home quarantine was moderate, you made the assessment how? What criteria did you use to call home quarantine evidence, the evidence for it, moderate? How are you getting to your conclusions? What's the proof? What are the steps that you're following? Are you a 14-year-old, high school science fair participant? Is that what you are? COVID-19 evidence service? Or do you just have a really intellectually challenged supervisor? Oh, I had 16 studies. Ooh, that's more than 4. Is it more than 4? I'm forgetting how to count. Back to Rashid. Anyway, there's a large enough signal to suggest that it may be effective in slowing transmission, particularly with high adherence. Everybody has to highly adhere. 70% of the people have to adhere, and we looked at 16 studies. Ooh, the Rashid 2015, back to Rashid, 2015 review included a modeling study. Really? A modeling study? Ooh, not a study of horses or I don't know, aphids or insects or any animals. Reduced the peak caseload and attack rate by 25% and 1.5% respectively, and delayed the peak by around 1 week. Oh, we don't reference anything. We don't show where the data is coming from. We're just going to delay a peak by a week. We're going to delay a peak by a week. Secondary impacts instead of primary impacts. Great. We didn't even label these primary impacts. These are now the secondary impacts because we like to call things secondary impacts, and down the line we're gonna have tertiary impacts, but that might be too complicated for our mouths. So we're not. It's just gonna be. We didn't even label them primary impacts. We're just gonna call them secondary impacts. I mean, unless I'm wrong. Is the word primary in here at all? Primary. Primary, find the word primary. Healthcare services. Give me primary impacts, please. Primary studies, search terms. Nope. We didn't have primary impacts. We just went straight to the secondary ones after describing some impacts because we don't care about precision or logic. This is the science that apparently. Let me see if anybody's asked me any questions. I'm getting frustrated, everybody. Whoa. Oh, okay. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting really frustrated. Secondary impacts. The following reviewers highlighted the need to consider the economic and social costs of these interventions. Yeah, that would be reasonable. For example, the benefits of quarantine would need to be taken in context of the risk to other household members, a risk that might increase the longer the period of quarantine continues. Similarly, the Rashid 2015 review highlighted the risk of cross-house contamination. The review included an observational study in Chinese university students and reported a significant increase in influenza-like illness, ILI, for students quarantined in a room with a confirmed case of H1N1 pandemic influenza over those not exposed to an H1N1 case, 26% versus 6%, P equals 0.02. School dismissals or closures. I really want to know what they're going to say about this. By far the largest volume of evidence for any single intervention relates to school closures, 101 studies. School closures were effective in reducing transmission during influenza pandemics, although the optimal timing and durations are not clear. Okay, so they're referencing 101 studies. I'd like to know if even one of those studies an illness that does not impact school-aged kids. Okay? Right now we have COVID-19, which is a virus, apparently, that has little to no health impact on school-aged kids. When you have a pandemic that has little to no impact on school-aged kids, how about you show me some science that indicates that school closures are effective in reducing transmission. School closures were effective in reducing transmission during influenza pandemics, although the optimal timing and duration are not clear. The reviewers identified two main types of studies: those in which most students were sent home and only some teachers and administrators remained to support children from low-income environments who needed school meals, school dismissal, and studies of full school closure. However, the reviewers did not deal separately with data from these two different scenarios. I'm glad it's been studied at least, but it does not look like you can use this report to find the 101 studies that they used, which is really, really, really weak from the perspective of referencing. Okay, because right now, you know, we're getting to at least some minds are coming together, right? 101 studies is at least something that you can look at. It's like at least something that you can read, right? Otherwise, I mean, just we're talking about Rashid. Anyway, okay. Looks like at least there's something. All right, did not deal separately with the data from these two scenarios. Forced closure soon before a planned school holiday, a few weeks before Easter, which is how they just did it. So their CYA, anybody knows what that means, may have benefits. Some caution about when to reopen school may be needed, as there is evidence of increased infection rates after reopening. Really? Any negative effects of prolonged closure need to be considered, including encouraging unwanted contacts in other social spaces and an increase in parental responsibilities. Really? I mean, you know, it's very different. Quarantine is very different from vacation. Because, I mean, yesterday, like, I'm sweaty. I've been wearing sweatpants for probably 35 hours. I might have slept in these sweatpants from Saturday going to Sunday. I wore these sweatpants all day Sunday. I mean, I guess, but, you know, my neck is stiff. I'll tell you that. And I guess I was quarantined. I didn't go out. Which could deplete workforces in other essential areas. Really? Yeah, we do have supply chains. It is worth noting that the effect of influenza in children appears to be different to that of COVID-19. Yeah, typically milder. However, it's not known if underlying co-infection is more common in children than in adults. Okay, secondary impacts. The Rashid 2015 reviewers highlighted the considerable secondary and social economic impacts of school closures. Good. Including evidence that 16 to 45% of parents would need to take leave to supervise children home. Really? 16 to 18% of parents will lose income 16 to 18%. I don't believe that, Rashid. I think you kind of missed the mark on 16 to 18%. Because if you keep stuff closed for 2 weeks, I'm about to say it's about 45%. Keep stuff closed down for 4 weeks, it's going to be 60%, 70% of parents going to lose income. I think that estimate, Rashid, is a bit low. About 20% of households would have difficulty arranging childcare. 20%? You mean 95%? What are you talking about? Not one parent has been like, well, childcare is going to be a piece of cake. What are you, out of your mind, Rashid? 20% of households are going to have difficulty arranging childcare? You mean 100% of households are going to have difficulty arranging childcare? Or 99%? 20%? What kind of review is that? What are you, out of your mind? Making what you should did? Yeah, okay.
So,
Hey.
I'm watching Netflix.
Okay, my daughter's watching Netflix. Good. Where are you getting 20% of households are going to have...
I basically don't hear you.
Good. 20% of households are going to have difficulty arranging childcare. I know a lot of parents. I'm a parent of a 13-year-old. Not one parent that I've talked to has not had difficulty arranging childcare. So I'm going to go ahead and be bold and make my own personal scientifically grounded evidence. If Rashid can be like, oh, I'm a reviewer, I'm going to say 100% of households will have difficulty arranging childcare. Prove me wrong, because I bet 100% is going to be closer to the reality than your 20%, Rashid. So, I don't know, send me money for being close. I win. Unbelievable. The authors identified one UK-based model that estimated that the cost of school closures would be 0.2 billion to 1.2 billion per week. That's in the UK. Amounting to around 0.2 to 1% of GDP for school closure over a pandemic wave around 12 weeks. Oh man. Is that 1% per week? That's low. That's low, Rashid. I'm just going by fear. I'm not going to tell you. Unbelievable. Ain't going to be a billion a week, everybody. 12 weeks? I'm on day 7. Parents are losing their minds. 12 weeks? You think people could hold out for 12 weeks locked in their homes? Locking up the asymptomatic and the healthy? And because you're isolating the symptomatic and the unhealthy and the elderly, you can't help them? You're isolating those who can help the ones who need the help. You're severing that social tie, forcing people to make first it was 1 meter, this is 1.2 meters, 1.5 meters, walking around each other. You know how stressful that is? It is insane. People are acting insane. It's not normal. Okay, I got some thumbs up. Thank you for the thumbs up. Let's see if I got an audience. Oh, well, there's people going to be watching later. I guess this is boring. I'm all alone right now. The reviewers also noted that a comparative analysis of public health measures for pandemic mitigation found that continuous universal school closure was less cost-effective than stockpiling antiviral drugs or pre-pandemic vaccines. I didn't think antiviral drugs existed, do they? Can vitamin C be a drug? Was school closure 14 or 21 times more costly for equivalent morbidity and mortality benefits than intervention strategies with antivirals or pre-vaccination, respectively? They also highlighted the social risks, including the possibility that children might be left with inadequate care, be left with underage siblings, and have reduced support for free meals. Implementing social distancing in schools. Our supplementary research identified an additional study from Fahate and colleagues probably an extra space in here, everybody. You're not being very careful. Who conducted a qualitative study to explore the perspectives of school and preparedness officials on the feasibility of implementing a range of social distancing practices to reduce influenza transmission during a pandemic. Key themes to support optimal implementation of social distancing in schools included the need to secure buy-in between teaching leads, parents, and wider stakeholders. Yeah, ain't got no buy-in from me. If you're not feeling well, you stay home. If you've got a fever, the way that the policy is right now in Austria, you had a fever yesterday, your child can't go to school the next day. Then, when they're a day fever-free, they go to school. That's what you got buy-in for from me. Self-quarantine in the home, kind of keep it lighting, spreading. You know, something kind of comes around, it sort of spreads a little bit. You know, you get your fever, you beat it, you go back to school after 24 hours. That's what you got That's what you got buy-in from me. You do not have buy-in that every single little tiny little blip in death rate and infection creates a global lockdown for the healthy and the asymptomatic. And then if you've had contact with somebody who's ailing, like you're a good person and you go and you help them and you bring them some tea or make them some soup or give them a massage or you visit them in the hospital, if you're a good person, then you have to go under lockdown. So you're trying to say that people accompanying those who are departing gonna have to isolate themselves? No, you got no buy-in. And I'm even gonna say from a majority of parents, the only people that are gonna buy in are scared. They're scared they're gonna walk around and get shot. You got no buy-in. Zero buy-in. Using this buy-in to sustain appropriate behaviors outside of schools. What if the behavior is not appropriate? Adequate consideration of the potential negative impacts. Yeah, the negative impact is I don't believe it. I don't believe that quarantining the asymptomatic and the healthy creates a positive outcome. I don't even believe that it's gonna flatten the curve. I don't put it this way. I don't think that school closure is going to flatten the curve. I don't think it does. I really don't. My bet is that the school closures are going to dismantle the herd immunity of the youth. And we're going to see youth getting sick because of this. It's like this little report is written about all the positive stuff for something that they have almost no evidence for, and they're not going, hey, we might be fixing something that's not broke and breaking it by trying to fix it. If they're even trying to fix it. Because this is low. This like, I like data. I like stuff that at least sounds, you know, that like you have to put an effort into trying to understand. Like you might want to, you might need to learn some new vocabulary to get familiar with. Increasing the availability of extra resources. They need to make decisions collaboratively. Yeah, what about quote unquote dissent? Where feasible and an appropriate inclusion of flexibility to adapt national guidance to local contexts. Okay, well, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. As of March 2020, the World Health Organization has released, or the WHO have released. I'm going to say the WHO has released. The World Health Organization is a singular noun, has released key messages, and maybe they want to be plural, and actions for COVID-19 prevention and control in schools. All right, at least we got something to read. Want to be able to click it? How many pages is this? And it's not that many pages, everybody. I mean, I guess me doing page count, it's 12 pages. gonna be nothing to read. Ain't gonna be no data. Oh man, everybody. Changes in the workplace. The following 2020 reviewers identified 18 studies. Overall, there was some evidence that implementing workplace measures, such as remote working, staggered shifts, and extended holidays, could slow down transmission and delay of the epidemic peak, although the size of the effect varied. For example, one simulation study showed that nationwide closure of schools and workplaces for weeks would delay the time of peak occurrence by 5 to 8 days. The impact on university closures appeared less certain. What is it? 5% of the population is going to be impacted. How many people are going to be in peak? Prepare for the peak. Get everybody to help each other out. Everybody help each other. Have children and grandchildren help their elders and the ailing. That means that, you got 9 people for every 1 person that apparently is going to be critical, right? And of these criticals, I think it's even lower than that. That's if it's 10%. So if you get 10% of your population ailing and potentially going to die, 9 rest of the people, let's say 1 or 2 of those are completely unable. Then that means that you have 6 people to every 1 person that is ailing. You just gotta work together. Shut down workplaces and then don't let anybody help each other. More secondary impacts. I guess they're not. I guess it's always just secondary impacts. The timing of workplace changes and the possible social and economic implications need careful consideration. Rashid 2015 reviewers highlighted the potential for considerable loss of income by employees facing work closures. What about the employers? As well as the risk that supply chains would be halted for essential and important goods. Yeah, that's not a negative outcome there, is it? When you're quarantining the healthy and asymptomatic. Avoiding crowds and restricting movement. Open air. I hear people in Mexico just going to the beach, not paying any attention to this. It's just salt air. I wonder if they've met. I wonder can COVID-19 can it even spread? Sea salt air, saline. I don't know. Does where the crowd, is this going to even, all right, I haven't read section 6 yet. It's going to be avoiding crowds. Is it going to be a type of crowd? It's going to be a crowd, crammed together. Is it going to be a crowd in the sunshine? Is it going to be a crowd in a warehouse at night, day, temperature, moisture? Restricting movement. Let's see if a beach is in here. 3 studies were identified in the following review. Okay, limited evidence. Let's see if there's a beach investigated here. Limited evidence suggested that avoidance of mass gatherings where may be beneficial, but there was considerable uncertainty on the size of the crowd that would constitute a gathering. One study reported that a ban on public gatherings in combination with other interventions for a median of 4 weeks could reduce the weekly death rate. Really? Did it say suggested or reported? There was some evidence of a positive correlation between the duration of the ban and the reduced death rate, because we're just going to talk right about the conclusion. The Rashid 2015 report included the Rashid 2015 review reported one included modeling paper that suggests that mass gatherings shortly before an epidemic peak could increase the peak height by about 10%. but at other times the impact would be small. It's just modeling. It's going to model this. The Rashid 2015 reviewers reported there was not a universal consensus from modeling studies of the impact restrictions on movement. They reported one study that showed that moderate delays, 1 to 5 weeks, could be achieved by strict internal mobility restrictions. Greater than a 50% reduction in mean travel frequency applied in the early stages of the pandemic for a period of 2 to 4 weeks. However, they cited another modeling study that showed that weak travel restrictions, 10% travel restrictions, might actually increase attack rates due to preventing travelers transmitting more infections with their local area. I'm just going to tell you something that that you might want to take into consideration. We're going to go ahead and call this the Mikkel modeling method, MMM. In the Mikkel modeling method, you actually assess the type of pandemic. And actually, we're not going to wind up calling them attack rates. I can call them something else. In the future, I'll figure that out. But we're actually going to assess which subsets of the population are in danger. So we're going to have a quality, we're going to have a type of properties to a quote-unquote pandemic. And see, by increasing the amount of parameters that we look at, we're going to wind up with more precise results that we can so that we can have more positive outcomes for humanity and for society, so that our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and future generations have a better life, and that they're free, by the way. Free, yeah. So it's not just a pandemic, okay? There's the quality, there's the type, there are the properties of this pandemic, and we must investigate which subsets of the population are more or less in danger. If the healthy and asymptomatic are not in danger, then we do not disrupt their interaction. We tend to the ailing, the sick, the symptomatic, the elderly, the at-risk groups. That's what we do, okay? Emerging evidence in COVID-19. Given its novelty, information on the effects of social distancing during the COVID-19 pandemic is limited but emerging. Several social distancing strategies, including citywide lockdowns, screening measures at train stations and airports, active case finding, and isolation of suspected cases, appear to be slowing down the transmission of COVID-19 outside Hubei province. Mathematical modeling of measures to slow COVID-19 transmission rates in South Korea suggest that preventive measures such as social distancing were crucial among a variety of other measures in reducing the spread of the virus. Now, so we're looking at China and Korea. One of the things that doesn't make a lot of sense is, why are scientists all around the world trusting the information coming from the Chinese Communist Party? It's a good question to ask. Why is the world relying on those numbers? And I'm gonna say, is reducing the spread of the virus actually a desired outcome? Is herd immunity vital to the survival of the human species? Data-driven models of COVID-19 spread in China, called susceptible exposed infectious quarantine recovered. Okay, susceptible exposed infectious quarantine recovered models. That sounds like actual, science. That sounds like investigation. So 13 sounds like something that can actually be read and may actually have some substance. So that, can I access it? Cold Spring. I can't read that. BMJ Yale preprint. Oh, okay. Well, it's a tiny bit of something that appears to be. Okay. Data, numbers. Okay, we're good. That's much better. Showed that substantial social distancing for 30 days has significant benefits in Wuhan and Hubei. The model suggested the greatest benefit could be had with early stepwise implementation of social distancing measures, beginning in the area with the highest prevalence. However, timing was crucial. I'm setting this on something that that blocks the fan. I'm gonna get something so that it's doesn't start getting too loud. Greatest benefit? I don't know what they're calling benefit. How are you defining the benefits? What are the positive outcomes that you're looking for? Could be had with early stepwise implementation of social distancing measures, beginning in the area with highest prevalence. However, timing was crucial. Too early, and the beneficial effect was partly neutralized. The results of a recent modeling study of UK cases, COVID-19, have reinforced the need for social distancing measures as a package of interventions. The authors concluded that the effectiveness of any one intervention in isolation is likely to be limited, and that the interventions need to be combined to have a substantial effect on transmission. Well, what about the idea that we're all fish in the ocean and that the ocean has been poisoned and that we're just excreting these viruses and we're looking at each other and the fish that are exhibiting symptoms and that are dying, we think that they're contagious, but there's actually a poison in the ocean, right? And even if this is, an attack thing, what if it's just going to do what it's going to do, and its end goal is inevitable, and it might be like herpes simplex virus 1, and it's going to get to 2/3 of the population, and it's just going to get there. That's when it's going to stop, and that's when we're going to have a type of herd immunity as a species, right? So what if reducing transmission is reducing the spread? What if resistance is futile? What if it's impossible? What if it's not going to do anything? And if 99.9% of the population will be unharmed, why are we destroying society? 99.9% of the population is going to be unharmed, and we're going to look. Everybody's going to be looking at this. I'm going to look. I'm going to look to see what particular metrics look like. I'm not even going to mention the metrics. It's really funny. I'm not going to mention the metrics because there are some metrics that are going to show whether school shutdowns and business shutdowns month if that was reasonable. They have a substantial effect on transmission. So I'm questioning whether that's a positive outcome, because maybe whatever you want to call it, it would be like a saturation rate or whatever it is. Wherever it sort of stops, maybe it just goes and dies. Apparently that's what happened with Ebola. Or maybe it spreads around the entire world and it's 2/3 of the world's population, like herpes simplex 1. They described a combination of home isolation and suspected cases, home quarantine to those living in the same household, and social distancing of elderly people, right, because we're not allowed to care for the elderly anymore, and others most at risk of severe disease as optimal mitigation policies, right? Why is it optimal? Which might reduce peak healthcare demand by 2/3 and deaths by half. Instead of what if we say that reducing peak healthcare demand is destructive, and what we need to do is just have the symptomatic people spread out to other area hospitals. What if we just can't have that peak? You need 15,000 ventilators. You need 15,000 ventilators. End of discussion. No school closures. No impact on business. You just need that many ventilators. Why do we need to reduce peak healthcare? Why don't we just increase healthcare capacity? What about at-home care? What about effective therapeutic methods disseminated by governments? What about measures taken by children, grandchildren, while supporting your elders and your elderly and your ailing at home? Authors noted that stopping mass gatherings is predicted to have relatively little impact, results not shown, because the contact time at such events is relatively small compared to the time spent in schools or workplaces and in other community locations such as bars and restaurants. So, yay! Sports events are going to be restarted. They also highlighted the possible need because, and who cares if it's indoor or outdoor, right? That don't make no difference, even though during the Spanish flu they had outdoor hospitals. They also highlighted the possible need for an extended duration of time when these measures may need to remain in place to avoid a rebound in transmission and until a vaccine becomes available. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody wants a vaccine. Everybody's going to be immune. Who's going to want a vaccine? It's already done. Thing went around. Everybody's got it. Everybody's either an asymptomatic carrier or done had it already. And nobody want a vaccine and avoid a rebound in transmission. So, right, yeah. At least that's a concept, right? So you shut everything down, then everybody interacts again, and then there's a rebound. So why did you shut everything down? Conclusions. Global data on COVID-19 continue to be collected. They must be actively analyzed and used to support real-time decision-making. Good, give me access to the database. And I mean it. Make it available publicly. However, until this evidence base grows, we're just making decisions that we feel like it based on no evidence. Current COVID-19 policies may rely on inferences from other scenarios such as influenza pandemics, even though it ain't behaving like influenza because it's not impacting anyone but those with pre-existing conditions and the elderly. So it's not acting like an influenza pandemic, but we're going to treat it like an influenza pandemic, even though that's completely wrong. And so as a result of that conclusion, business owners can press charges, they can sue, they can reclaim damages, and that's something that would be suggested on a business and on a citizen's level. If your business has faced damages and your government is making a decision based on inferences from other scenarios such as influenza pandemics, and this thing ain't acting like an influenza pandemic, and then you have a case. Although limited, the best available evidence appears to support social distancing measures as a means of reducing transmission and delaying spread. It's just limited evidence it appears to support, but we're doing it anyway. Everybody in the entire globe. Staggered and cumulative implementation of these interventions may prove most effective. Maybe, we don't know. The timing and duration of such measures appear to be critical. Sort of looks critical if we do it at the right time, whatever it is that we do. The breadth of measures, including community-wide containment, needs to be considered in the context of the likely benefit. Another here. We don't care that we're not even going to search our file for double two spaces. You know, we're so sloppy. At least it doesn't. I mean, maybe there are spelling errors, but anyway, needs to be considered in the context of the likely benefit to harm Balance, whatever balance is, economic costs, and the potential for increasing infection rates once the measures are removed. Okay, there's a reasonable sentence. Whoever got this sentence 16 in, good for you. You I'd like to talk to. Okay? The person who added this bullet point, this one, this last one. Okay? Whoever you are, thank you for being there. Thank you for being there. And you're the person I want to talk to. End. Disclaimer. The article has not been peer-reviewed. It should not replace individual clinical judgment, and the sources cited should be checked. The views expressed in this commentary represent the views of the authors, and not necessarily those of the host institution, the NHS, the NIHR, or the Department of Health. The views are not suitable, not a substitute for professional medical advice. And here are the authors. Search terms, references. Okay, everybody. If you're one of the authors of this and you watched me review your report on what the evidence is for social distancing during global pandemics, if you feel criticized, I am criticizing you, but I want it to be a critique. So I'm very, very sorry for my harsh tone. I'd like it to be a critique, and for me, the difference between a criticism, I'm going to plug my Mac in, so I'm going to end this broadcast right now. To make it into a critique, I'd like to apologize for my tone, and I'd like to request interaction that helps you, that, for example, that helps you ease the mind of the citizenry. And I'd also like the process used to be more scientific, to create better results. I'd like to interact with you about how this information can increase, can provide benefit for our great-grandchildren's generation. I'd like to project into the future and say, hey, look, if more quote-unquote pandemics come, is this going to be the only response? Is this sort of a new standard? How many months of lockdown, how many weeks or days of lockdown per year are permissible for governments? And what's the lifestyle of our going to be in the future for people? So I'd like to interact. I'd like to change it from a criticism to a critique. And the way that we can do that is by making things better together. Just go ahead and do a little quick plug. I created a fictional country. It's called the Country of Goodland. And it's the good country of Goodland where we make everything better together. So if any of the scientists here have some recommendations for how the policy could be rolled out in the 100 million fictional person population in the country of Goodland, please let me know. And thank you for your time and attention. Bye-bye for now. I'm going to dens.